subscribe.
Nobody could trust them anymore. You understand what? It could be anybody.
They were evil, dangerous bastards. I would have been afraid they would have had me shot. I decided to get Reggie first. And we waited outside the flat in Stratford. I get a phone call saying Reggie's on his way. We decided to shoot him and cut his throat and leave him there as a message to the rest of his cronies. And he never arrived. So we decided to leave it to another night.
By now, Scotland Yard realised that people were beginning to laugh at the ineffectiveness of the police in arresting them.
They were embarrassing the police. Protection rackets were still around. Murders had gone unpunished. People are still writing about missing Frank Mitchell, missing Jack the Hat, the unsolved murder of George Cornell. Journalists are having a field day.
Their notoriety and their fame became an embarrassment to Scotland Yard.
My name is Maurice Harding, and in the 1960s I was a detective constable in the Metropolitan Police. May the 8th, 1968, I was home in bed here, fast asleep. About 3:30 in the morning, I got a telephone call from someone who told me to go to my office. When we were there, we received a telephone call to go to Tintagel House. Nipper Reed came in, stood on the box. Morning, gentlemen, we're going to arrest the Krays today.
I was on the Kray inquiry. Even my brother and my father, who were in the police force, didn't know what job I was on at the time. Wasn't allowed to tell anybody. I never told anybody. Nipper Reed, he went into the Krays flat. The milkman came at the same time. They had to clear the milkman out the way, say we're police officers.
When they got there, Reggie was with a woman and Ronnie was in bed with a 16-year-old boy.
I think somebody said, "Good morning, Mr. Reed," or something ridiculous. There was no fighting or anything like that. They were told we'd done the right thing, we'd got the right people, and all it was there was going to court and proving it.
The police came up to Birmingham and they arrested me up there. And they took me to a place called Tintagel House. I observed in the room itself photographs of all the firm. There were photographs of the twins, Ian Barry, Tony, Ronnie Bender, Ronnie Hart, Albert Donahue, and Jack Dixon. So it was pretty serious business. And Nipper Reed says to me about the McVitie murder, "As we've got it, you had nothing to do with it. Tell us about it." I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "I don't know anything. I came up in a school where you didn't rat on your friends. No matter what it was, they kept their mouth shut and you kept your mouth shut." And he turned around and he said, "I've had enough of you." He said, "Charge him with murder."
People would never ever talk about the Krays because they were so frightened of them until they were in custody. It was really, really in Nipper's interest that before we did anything else to arrest them. And having arrested them, we could then go on and get the evidence.
Nipper got a bit tense, wondering whether everybody was going to come forward and stick by what they'd said they'd say. I'd have been worried, I think, myself, if I'd given evidence against them and that you were on your own and somebody had come up and try and get rid of you. Girl that was the barmaid at the Blind Beggar pub, she witnessed the shooting of George Cornell in the pub, and we had to try and not talk her around, but just tell her that she was doing the right thing, but telling the truth. Very difficult. Took her kids out for walks, persuaded her that we were the right people.
Once the Krays were inside, this idea of a solid criminal firm who were all going to stand up for the Krays, and it virtually collapsed, with the exception of their brother Charlie and the Lambriani brothers.
I couldn't believe any of the firm were going to turn, to be honest with you. I thought they were all loyal to the twins. It didn't matter whether it was King Kong or little Billy round the corner. You didn't do it.
Albert Donahue is Reggie Kray's right-hand man. He acts as driver, muscle and collector of protection rackets.
He was a serious criminal, and I think of all of the firm, he probably had more respect. Pressure was put on Albert Donahue to take the pressure off of the Krays by admitting to crimes that he hadn't committed.
The twins asked him, yeah. Well, didn't ask him, told him, and that's what turned them people.
How are you feeling today, Reggie?
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel good. I'm relaxed.
In 1965, you and Ronnie, you had the world at your feet. Everything was great. Fashion, pop art. David Bailey taking photographs of you and Ronnie. Entertainers and criminals were very closely aligned. What went wrong?
They were not behaving like gangsters. They were completely unpredictable.
They were upsetting a lot of people for no reason. But they were getting fed up with them. You know, you start killing your own. Where do you stop?
And it is quite clear from several sources that serious criminal players were contemplating assassinating the twins in order to bring some kind of equilibrium back to the crime scene in London. It was chaotic. It wasn't good for business. The Krays had to go.
Nobody could trust them anymore. You understand what? It could be anybody.
They were evil, dangerous bastards. I would have been afraid they would have had me shot, but I decided to get Reggie first. And we waited outside the flat in Stratford. I get a phone call saying Reggie's on his way. We decided to shoot him and cut his throat and leave him there as a message to the rest of his cronies. And he never arrived. So we decided to leave it to another night.
It was headlines on the front page of the paper, Kray twins arrested. In the end, I think there were about 24 people that were picked up either that morning or the week after.
Yeah, when I arrested Albert, he just sat down next to me, put his shoes on and said, OK, let's go.
And once he started to give evidence, really, things started to go badly wrong for the Krays.
We were still investigating the murder of Jack the Hat and Flitty.
Make yourself comfortable.
But Albert Donahue, when he admitted what his connection with it, was that he'd wallpapered the whole flat again. We actually went back to Evering Road. First thing I did was go and peel a corner off the wallpaper and pull it up, and we found obvious blood there. There's blood all up the wall.
The police, they are right on their case. But I was confident I'd be okay. They'd beat the police before. I thought they were quite capable of covering things up. They couldn't see themselves going down.
My name's Ivan Lawrence. I'm Queen's Counsel, and I was junior counsel in defence of Ronald Kray in the murder trials. We get a great deal of cooperation from our client, Ronald Kray. I remember one occasion when we were getting close to him having to give evidence. I said to him, can we come down afterwards and go through your statement, prepare you for giving defence? And he said, no, he says, I don't want you to come down tonight. I've got a nice young boy coming to see me tonight. And I said, well, it's very important, Mr. Kray, that we go through your evidence. Yes, we'll do it another day.
When Ronnie saw me in court, he wrote a little note which he got one of the warders to pass to me, saying, "Dear Miss Lethbridge, you are more beautiful than ever. When I get out of this, I will take you to the moon." Ronnie was, I'd say, he was off with the fairies.
Poor Violet had to go to the Old Bailey with the shirts the day before for them to put on in the morning. They had to be dressed better than anybody else in the court, the barristers included.
So we sat there for the longest murder trial, the most expensive murder trial ever.
39-day trial has cost about £150,000 in defence costs alone.
But what they did a fascinating thing. They put two murder trials together. George Cornell, McVie murder. And they linked it by saying that Ronnie Kray said to Reggie, "I've done mine, you do yours." Still to this day, I cannot get over it. Two murder trials being put together.
A strong team of uniformed Special Patrol Group officers has handled the escort duty of the prisoners from various prisons to the court.
When the trial started at the Old Bailey, and I began to see Donahue and Ronnie Hart and others, then it dawned on me about the pictures. The pictures was on one side those that were giving evidence and those that weren't. When Ronnie Hart got up and spoke in the box, I was shocked. He was their flesh and blood.
He was a cousin of the Krays and well involved with them in the murder of Jack the Hat McVitie. And I took him to the trial and sat in court with him while he gave his evidence. He looked up from the dock and Roddy Kray was looking at him with his fingers like this, and he done the old gun sign as if to say, you're dead, young man. But Ronnie just looked at him and mouthed, "Poof."
The Cornell murder, everybody was talking about, well, it's the barmaid that will be able to recognise Ronnie. Nobody else is going to say it was Ronnie Kray. The day that she turned up, she was nice, dressed nice, good looking, and I heard her speak. I remember Chris Lambriano going, as much as to say, "We're finished."
It was the end. We're going down. Because she was so believable. Everything she said, she convinced me that she was telling the truth.
But now it all rests with the 12 men locked in a little room back there, and we all wait for what they have to say about it.
When the guilty verdicts were read out, it was rough justice. It was the twins they was after. And if you was with the twins, you were going down as well.
The judge was Melford Stevenson, who was notoriously tough.
And you weren't going to go down with a sloppy 10 or something else like that. You were going to do a big bird. Ronnie Bender did 20 years. My brother Tony did 15. I did 15.
And when he said, "Twins, I sentence you to life imprisonment," you heard that gasp. Go, "Oh God, no, no."
I mean, undoubtedly they were guilty, but it really worried me. I didn't feel that they were being given a fair trial. I was left with a horrible feeling of class war. Nobody is particularly worried when gangsters kill each other, but they're terribly worried if they go beyond their station.
The sentences that they received were very high by the standards of the 1960s. Life with a recommendation of 30 years.
Poor Violet. She was just in total shock. She couldn't believe it. Why did all those people come to and talk bad about them? Those people have sat at my table. They've had tea in my house. I talked to their mothers. I asked them about their wives and children. Why were they all saying bad things? They're calling them murderers. And that's when I thought, I can't pretend anymore. I said, "But Violet, they did commit murder."
Ronnie Kray is sent to Durham. Reggie Kray is sent to the Isle of Wight. And this means that Violet Kray, the mother, has two incredibly long journeys to prisons, north and south of the UK.
That's got to really, really wear you down. Now she's had to ask for lifts, and not a lot of people wanted to do that. It sounds terrible because they all wanted to do everything for her. When the twins were here, I went to Parkhurst with her once,
And she took the apple pie. I said, you can't give that to Reggie. No, she said, that's for the guards. Everybody likes my apple pie. I said, how do you know you can give it to the guards? Well, I'll give it to them as we go in. That's for your tea. Because in her mind, anything she gave the guards, they would be nicer to her son.
Prison, for a start in the 1970s, was an extremely rough place to be.
It was rough. People do know how to use knives in jail. They know how to hurt people in jail.
And the prison's so-called Black Museum contains a terrifying array of weapons that the prisoners have constructed to do violence to themselves, each other, and the staff.
So it's incredibly dangerous for them. They are the old guard, and they are surrounded by young bucks, and they fancy their chances of taking on Ronnie and Reggie.
Famous, the book Profession of Violence has come out and is selling by the thousand. The myth of the Krays starts with the profession of violence. This was written by a journalist, John Pearson, who the Krays allowed access before they were finally arrested. Said to be the most read book in prison and said to be the most stolen book out of bookshops.
They were kind of celebrities in prison. They had tear-ups, they had differences of opinion with people.
My name's Bobby Cummins. I was in Parkhurst, maximum security, with Reggie Kray.
My name's Steve Tully. I first met Reg in Parkhurst in November '82. Some very dangerous people in prison. Sometimes it can be quite heavy.
A friend of mine got killed, stabbed to death over an onion. You know, when people say prison, it's an holiday camp. I don't know what holiday camps they do, but there people slashing their wrists, stabbing each other.
Everybody in the wing used to have a wedge, which was like a wooden wedge. So when you banged up at night, you'd put the wedge under the door, because a lot of people would come in and attack you while you're still asleep.
But everyone's tooled up in there. You know, even I had half a guardian shear in my coat. There's a serious bit of work there, you know.
Ronnie is struggling into 77, 78. He's having to deal, and Reggie are having to deal, with regular prison attacks. They themselves have been on a charge for beating somebody up in a cell who'd come to attack them. Ronnie is struggling with all of this. And in 1979, it's evidenced that his letter writing is now deteriorating. It's rambling. There's a load of gobbledygook. Ronnie is slowly believing that evil forces are against him, and this shows a man that is struggling with reality.
His mental health was deteriorating, and eventually, in 1979, Ronnie was moved to Broadmoor.
Maximum security special hospitals like Broadmoor are designed to cope with people of dangerous and violent behaviour.
Paranoid schizophrenia is that form of schizophrenia which has as its main symptoms delusions, that is false beliefs, and hallucinations.
When Ronnie decided he weren't going to be like that, that's when he decided he wanted to go to Broadmoor. Because he said, well, if I'm going to be in here, I might as well be in a place like that.
You know, when we talk about Krays and you talk about people doing long sentences in prison, it's really hard to explain to people what it's like. But their mother was the greatest woman. She never missed a visit with them boys.
Well, I first noticed in about 1981 that she was so tired, lost weight, and very, very drawn. She'd already been diagnosed then, but she told nobody, not even the old man. She didn't tell her husband about the cancer.
And when they was in jail, she'd visit them non-stop all them years, you know, until she died, bless her.
Violet Kray died the day before her 73rd birthday, still fighting to get parole for her notorious twins, the gangsters who were sentenced to 30 years each in 1969 for murder.
Oh, God. The funeral at Chingford, the little church, is right opposite the graveyard. There was a crowd outside, lots of Chingford people that had heard what was happening and wanted to see the twins.
The kindness, I can't believe. I mean, I just can't believe it. It amazed me with the amount of reads and the way people behaved. In fact, everybody.
Then came Reggie, also handcuffed from the maximum security wing at Parkhurst.
Neither of them cried at the mother's funeral. They were too concerned with the day. They weren't going to get out of a van
and cry in front of all these crowds.
Meanwhile, an even bigger crowd rushed to the graveside service for Vi. There were more flowers from film stars, underworld figures, and an ex-great train robber or two. She called the Kray twins, Ronnie and Reggie, my lovely boys, and faithfully visited them all over the country.
But the sad part about that was they weren't allowed to go to the grave. You know, from the church they were taken, again, out the back door, one into a car, one into a van, and gone.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.